Budgeting is a crucial tool for both national and personal development. In the context of national development, the budget plays a vital role in planning future expenditures, allocating resources, and financing development projects. It is an instrument of economic policy that indicates the direction of the economy and expresses government's social and economic priorities. On a personal level, creating a budget is essential for managing finances, setting realistic goals, and ensuring financial stability. It helps individuals track their spending, prioritize expenses, and allocate resources for savings and investment. Welcome to 30 Minutes on NTA News 24. This edition is focusing on budget as a tool for national development. I'm Lydia Sampson. Our first report by Stephen Nwokolu is providing more insight on the crucial role of budgets and budgeting.
Budget is the process of making documents that contain estimates of revenues and expenditures of a country and organizations for a projected period of time, mostly of 1 year, which can be subjected to review and proposed addition. The primary purpose of budgeting is for the efficient and equitable allocation of resources amongst the federating units, ministries, entities, and users.
Today in Nigeria, the current administration has said they're working to take over 80 million people out of poverty. For you to do that successfully, you need a budget. And you need a budget that mirrors this commitment from government. If you look at the 2024 budget, and you want to know what is the priority of this administration, the budget will tell you simply. One is security, tackling insecurity, because security sector is getting over 3 trillion naira. Two, when you look at it, you're also looking at infrastructure, building up on from the previous administration. And then when you look at it, thirdly, you're seeing that this government is prioritizing human capital development, and that's why you see a lot of programs, a lot of initiatives are tied towards what the budget depicts. So human capital development, social initiative and infrastructure is all tied to the budget and how the government hopes to implement this budget.
Budgeting generally is a proposal made by the federal government to take care of the income and expenses of the nation and how to judiciously make use of the fund. But unfortunately, Nigeria will be hearing of our budget in trillions. When it comes to the implementation, people will be disappointed. But this year's own, Shebi, they say, is going to be a source of a budget of renewed hope. So let's hope it will turn out in that way.
Therefore, it behoves on countries and organizations to engage in producing operational documents, such as a budget that specifies directly or implicitly the cost, time, and nature of the expected results.
You see, most people feel that, public feel that when the legislature and executive are not harmonious, that is when you can say the legislative are working. But we as experts, it is not so. Passing the budget of 2024 in record time means there's harmonious relationship within the legislature and executive. But where we can now say the legislature are not doing very well, it is in the oversight. Because budget is a law, and the law is from the National Assembly. So for them to pass the budget at record time, it is a good thing that has happened. And that shows that the legislature is now ready to work with the executive. But it is now onus on the legislature to make sure all the areas they have made provisions, such areas are being executed according to the budget, because they are not, they are legislature, they are not executives. So by having, they should be able to oversight as at when due to make sure so amount of money is being budgeted for this. Has that been done? Then from there, you could see that budget implementations will now be according to the time. These are also functions of legislature. It's not just for them to pass budget and now fold their hand. No. So it will now help in our budget implementations.
It's sad that we have always been budgeting money for socio-economic development, like electricity, road, and the rest of them. The problem is that the gaps in our infrastructure at this moment, the amount of money that we want to budget for it will be enough. But the key problem still remains that we must be able to solve the problem of allocation of money to projects so that we can see the execution of those projects being done thoroughly. In the last 10 years, we have discovered that road infrastructure alone, we are owing contractors 6 trillion. What it means is that even though we are budgeting for infrastructure like road, but we are not paying our contractors. So what could be the problem? So for me, is to solve the problem of allocation of money and timely release of money for contractors that will be doing road construction. With that, we can reduce the gap in our road infrastructure challenge, and it will always help the economy, because one of the key factors that will help Nigerian economy is road infrastructure, to create access for market and also to create opportunities for easy transportation and logistics of goods and services across the country.
Budget may be considered in 3 key areas, such as a tool for accountability, a tool for management, and as instrument for economic policy. It enables the government in strategizing on the possible ways of managing its resources judiciously. The annual budget process will, of course, aid the government to plan the financing of its capital projects in line with the anticipated revenues that will be channeled into specific direction like security, energy, agriculture, education, health, amongst other sectors of the economy.
Over time, government does not have the capacity to generate the up to 90% enough budget implementations. That is why you now see today, despite we're in 2024, but 2023 is still running. We now have a budget deficit because government could not be able to have the capacity to be able to generate financial wherewithal that we can say mostly our budget are tied with oil. But in an example, at the end of the day, we could not be able to even produce our quota daily, monthly, yearly, that we can set the major area of source of revenue will be able to finance the budget. Then if we also talk of internal IGR, have we been able to generate enough that we'll be able to finance our budget?
For instance, Nigeria's budget for the year 2024, Christian's budget of renewed hope, which a proposed expenditure of 27.5 trillion naira is based on the estimated revenue of 18.32 trillion naira.
It is from budget now that you draw your work plan and ensure you adhere strictly to your plan and evaluate and see your performance.
For the 2024 fiscal year, which is 10.8% higher than the 2023 budget of 24.82 trillion naira. According to some financial watchers, the budget will bring about infrastructural development and ultimately impact the socio-economic development of the country.
Even produce our quota daily, monthly, yearly, that we can set the major area of source of revenue will be able to finance the budget. Then if we also talk of internal IGR, have we been able to generate enough that we'll be able to finance our budget, to fund the budget? So these are part of the area of why we could not be able to have the impact of in terms of budget implementations. 2, there are criticals that is more worrisome. The manner and which the drivers of the government system spend the budget also did not allow, because there's a lot of wastages when it comes to issue of budget implementations. For example, you could see the current problem we are facing with the Ministry of Humanitarians and all that. Now, if the budget is being actually spent as exact and have impact, you could have been able to see it, because people are now wondering, you are having such amount of money in a private account and you could not be able to spend those money on the need that this budget is being meant for.
Yes. It has always been a challenge for us to meet our budget cycle because of most times, let's take from 1999 to date, if we don't want to go historically to 1960 when we got independent. From 1999 to date, we are always suffer what we call budget deficit, meaning that out of the 3 critical types of budget, balanced budget, surplus budget, as well as deficit budget, we have always had deficit budget in Nigeria. So because of that, we have not been able to meet up with our budget cycle. What it means is that we are not having enough money to take care of some of our budget allocation. So because of that, we always have this problem of budget deficit.
As a primary instrument to revive key sectors of the economy, government agencies are expected to manage funds and programs effectively as appropriated in the budget cycle.
I think that one thing I really like about the President Tinubu's government, when you look at performance, he has made it clear during the retreat he hosted with all the ministers and different heads of agencies and parastatal, is delivery, you know, and I like the fact that they've set a TOR, they've set a standard, and I know that the advisor to the president on policy coordination would review their performance, and the president had made commitment that any minister that is not performing, you know, is going to get sacked. And I think this will send a message to everyone that, you know, as citizens, you must hold leaders accountable.
It is, however, the consensus of the people that a well-thought-out budget with proper implementation will no doubt reinvent any ailing economy and boost the socio-economic development of the country.
Thanks, Stephen Nwokolo. As strategic as budget is, experts are emphatic that the budget must have meaningful correlation with the development plan, assist in assessing the impact of credit and financial institutions, and facilitate government's management of cash balances and debt. Well, let's have more from Thomas Ogbetere on these issues.
The 2024 budget, according to experts, has allocated funds to critical sectors such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, and social welfare. This is indicative that it is geared towards improving the quality of life for the citizens by ensuring access to essential services, reducing poverty, and fostering economic stability. Similarly, structured budget, key players say, reflects government commitment to addressing societal needs, promoting equity, and enhancing social cohesion.
But the main target of all national budget is to make sure that deficit that has been created in terms of infrastructure are attended, deficit that are attracted also in field of education, health is also attended. So the primary objective of budget is to look at the sources of government revenue and to project the expenditure of that revenue to improve the life standard of an individual using many different economic parameters that include checking the poverty rate, checking the purchasing power, and also checking the gross level of the economy.
What we are seeing now is that there is huge divergence between, budgetary provisions, what is released to the responsible agencies of government, and then how what is released is put to use. Now, when you then link that up to the policy objectives that government envisaged ab initio, you see also a huge disconnect. At the end of the day, who suffers? Citizens suffers.
They are, however, emphatic that effective budget governance at all levels of government is pivotal for transparency, accountability, and efficiency, stressing that this also entails putting up robust fiscal planning, prudent expenditure management, and continuous rigorous oversight mechanisms. Challenges such as fiscal indiscipline, corruption, and inadequate capacity, they opined, can undermine governance effectiveness. Therefore, experts are unanimous that strengthening institutional framework, enhancing public participation, and implementing stringent monitoring mechanisms are crucial for improving budget governance.
Most of the budget that have been presented, if you provide a very nice budget and with a very nice content, you realize that those economies are more friendly with the content of the budget. Let me give you an instance. The Lagos state budget is always ahead of any other state in Nigeria because Lagos is an economic environment. The operators are business-oriented people, and at the same time also they are familiar with what is called economic development target, and they are investing in that. So the efficiency of the budget relies solely on the revenue generation of that particular concept of the budget. Not only that, the timely releases of
whatever content that is designed for any developmental prospect. Even if you make your accruals, but you are not making timely releases, there is no way you have. The other one is the context, of procurement act, because most of the budget provision has to do with other laws, from the medium-term expenditure target to procurement laws. This has to be coexistent at the same time with the operators of the budget to make sure that if the budget is presented timely and the procurement procedures are also observed timely, and also the financial commitment of that is the releases are made timely. This help the budget to be implemented in good time.
I followed the formulation process, the submission to the parliament, the scrutiny, by the parliament, at the federal and in a few states. For the federal, not so much of a departure from what we've had in the past, and it's really sad. If we are going to renew the hope of Nigerians, we need to show it in the budget, because the budget will tell you what government plans to achieve. And I followed part of the scrutiny discussion by the National Assembly on the Ministry of Works, for instance. The kind of allocation that ministry had didn't really show that we are ambitious and whether we are actually going to address this problem about our road infrastructure headlong. Of particular interest was the discussion I saw around the ministry wanting to maintain federal roads. And that's supposed to be, a responsibility for FEMA. That the ministry is actually supposed to focus on big construction of roads, opening up the country, in connecting every region, and making sure that, we're able to reflect the economy by that. Because when you connect the people, when you connect communities, then transactions can happen. Activities can go on. Trade, intertrade within those communities movement of goods and services can easily occur.
They are quick to add that state effective budget governance is critical and indispensable for crucial developments, as it fosters fiscal discipline, promotes economic growth, and ensures equitable resource distribution. According to them, when states prioritize budget transparency, accountability, and efficiency, it contributes to microeconomic stability, attracts investments, and stimulates economic activities. Therefore, it is sacrosanct for state-led development initiatives that will complement national strategies, driving sustainable growth and enhancing citizens' well-being across all sectors.
You see, nationhood has to do with constitution. So in constitution, there are provisions of where federal government will intervene, where state and federal government will join hands, where state will also participate, and also the local government. And the constitution does not even stop at that. It has also touched individual at different communities, at the role they can play to improve security, to improve production, to improve even economic efficiency. You cannot just sit, for instance, and rely on government budget, that is the national budget. You sit at your locality and expect project to reach you when you have local government that you are very close to, when you have state government that you also have the same structure. Federalism is very interesting system where you have different tiers of government, different responsibilities, and not only different responsibilities, you have also a consideration of many individuals to partake in the development process. So at the state level, what we are expecting the state level to do to individual is enshrined in the state public finance laws and also public finance priorities. These priorities are channeled through the state assemblies, to be scrutinized at the state assemblies, also to take care of the provisions of revenue generation of that particular entity, and also to look at the prospect of expenditure in that same community.
The closest government to the people need to appear to be working. And you see, the idea that we always divert the attention of citizens to the center is not helping the situation that we are in. If there is no water in a community, for instance, everybody is talking about what the president is doing. If there is no security, everyone is pointing at the president. If the education system is collapsing in a particular state, they're pointing to the president. If a community road is bad, they're pointing to the president. I mean, we can't develop like that. It then also tells you that, state governments and other subnational entities, the local government precisely, needs to be up and running. The only challenge, let me not say that's not the only challenge, of course, but one of the major problems we've had in the past is that because there is little or no attention of citizens on how governments, at subnational level are, executing, budgets, planning budgets, and implementing programs and projects, at that level, it gives them that, opportunity to be lackadaisical. And when they're lackadaisical, it then puts the pressure on the center.
Fundamentally, the budget, according to experts, also serves as a policy instrument to address resource allocation challenges, economic disparities, and developmental priorities, noting that prioritizing key sectors, leveraging public-private partnership, and implementing targeted interventions, government can utilize resource utilization, stimulate economic diversification, and foster inclusive growth.
So government at all levels, government at all time, government at all costs has priority. So it depends on the budget priorities. Now you look at the provisions in the budget, not only looking at the provision, you look at how efficient those content can be achieved. That is the responsibility of the executive arm. It's also the responsibility of the legislative arm at the federal and at the state level. But it doesn't even stop there. It also lies to the responsibility of civil society organizations or communities involved in general.
They are also of the opinion that to promote sustainable budgeting and informed policy decision, policymakers must adopt evidence-based approaches, integrating stakeholders' inputs, as well as conduct comprehensive assessments, evaluating fiscal sustainability, analyzing expenditure patterns, and monitoring performance outcomes.
It's not just about the allocation of the funding itself. When the funding are allocated, how much of those funding are released to the responsible agencies of government? Those releases are dependent on revenue. Now, when those releases come, how much of those allocations initially are released? When those monies are now released, how efficiently, how economically, how effectively are the funds that are released, how are they put to use? Those things are interconnected, and they will ultimately determine how the policy objectives are realized. In the end, is that when those policy objectives are truly realized, achieved, that's when citizens will now begin to feel the impact of government.
They reiterate that the budget, if well and effectively implemented, will promote and stimulate economic development as well as enhance citizens' quality of life.
Indeed, whether at the national or personal level, budgeting aids in setting and achieving long-term financial goals. Nigerians are optimistic that the 2024 budget of renewed hope is strategic in genuinely achieving its aim across sectors. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another edition of the program. Stay safe.